Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I'm Leanne from Logic+Magic and this is our latest SEO Masterclass, Learn or Get Left Behind, why your organic traffic has dropped and how to fix it. Hopefully you've got a brew or maybe some lunch and I will hop straight into the agenda. So what we're going to be talking about today is I'll give a bit of an introduction to the session and who I am. I'll then be giving a bit of an overview of why SEO is important, just to remind ourselves why. Then we'll be looking into kind of the evolution of search. I'll be giving some tips and pointers on how to troubleshoot a traffic drop and then leave you with some key takeaways. So as an introduction, what's this session going to be about? It's going to be a reminder of why search is important for your business and for your customers. I'm going to give, like I say, a high-level overview of search engine changes and how SEO has evolved over the years, and some tips on what to consider if you've noticed your organic search traffic has been decreasing. So this is not going to be kind of an SEO sort of advanced session. I'm not going to go into huge details on kind of how to rank or anything like that. It's more kind of giving a background to how and why you may be experiencing some traffic drops. And then just a really small bit about myself to let you know why I'm talking about this today. So I am the head of SEO at Logic+Magic. I have just over 11 years experience in search across many industries, financial services, e-commerce, non-profit, many others as well. And I have a really keen interest in how and why we use search engines. So what is it that makes us decide to search at certain times? Not necessarily just from kind of purchasing, but also, why is it that, in the middle of the night, why is it that it's, it's Google that we turn to if we get a thought into our head? I just find all of that quite fascinating. So I'll hop straight into now why SEO is important. And we'll start off with actually, what is SEO? So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and it's the practice of improving your brand's visibility on search engines. Generally it involves kind of optimizing your website content and the overall experience of your website to align with what your potential customers and what search engine algorithms want and expect. SEO has changed a lot, which is what we're going to discuss later on today. But it's always been that it's always had that alignment with your customer. And whilst we optimize for people, we optimize for customers, we optimize for searchers, we still need to bear in mind kind of what a search engine wants and what the algorithm wants and expects, because that is the way how we, get those rankings and we get our website seen and visible, really. And then just a few stats on why SEO is important. If you're watching this and you think, well, it's okay, I'll get traffic from somewhere else. I get all of my traffic from direct or from social media. Not sort of investing and taking the time to look after the the SEO side of your website can really kind of close the door to a lot of potential customers. So there's 8.5 billion searches made on Google every day. I think it's like thousands per second. I think the average person, searches on search engines at least 4 times a day, and that's the average person. A lot of us will do an awful lot more searches than that. The average click-through rate, so the number of the percentage of clicks through to websites after someone has searched, the first position, the click-through rate is nearly 40%. So if you're in that first position, you are highly likely to get, traffic coming to your website. And Google in particular, they've got over 200 factors within their algorithm, and that's what Google uses. All search engines, all social media platforms all have their own algorithms that they use to present information to people. For Google, there's over 200, we think. There's never been a definitive list made. They've given us ideas on what is more important, and they give us tidbits, but we don't know exactly what all of those 200 factors are, which is why it's so important to have someone who kind of has experience or sort of has knowledge on SEO and optimization, looking after your website. And then really, really important, particularly if you have a website where you want people to convert, if whether or not you have a product-based business or a service-based business, 44% of shoppers start their purchasing journey on search engines. If you are not visible on search engines, you are, like I said earlier, potentially just closing the door to potential clients, customers, purchasers, and it can just be so important for the financial aspect of your business as well. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to the evolution of SEO, and I've put together this sort of this meme. So SEO used to be a relatively simple process involving keyword stuffing and link buying. However, with the constant evolution of search engine algorithms, SEO has become more sophisticated and focused on providing a high quality user experience. Sure, Grandma, let's get you back to bed. Okay, so as the meme just mentioned, SEO used to be not easier by any means, but it used to be an awful lot less people friendly. And when I say this, I don't mean this isn't the hard and fast rule. There was a much smaller part of the SEO industry who would use these tactics, who would just kind of try and game the system and kind of game the algorithm a little bit. And one of those would be by keyword stuffing. So that would be quite literally just choosing a keyword that you wanted your page to have high visibility for, and just putting that within your content as many times as you could. There used to be sort of rules around how many times you should put a piece of content, a keyword into your piece of content. That was just completely not true, but there used to be a belief that the more times a keyword would appear, the higher the page would rank on search engines. Which would make for very nonsensical content, because the keywords would just be put in randomly on the page content, and that was purely, I guess, people sort of trying to rank their website for ranking's sake, rather than actually trying to answer the search query for their user. Another way was low quality link building. So people just try and acquire as many backlinks, which is links from another website into yours, as possible, whether they were relevant or not. There used to be, and I'm fairly certain that there still is, a lot of purchasing of links that people do, where they would, like I say, literally pay a website owner to include a link from their website to theirs. That doesn't sit very well across search engines anymore, thankfully, but that did used to happen, and like I say, it maybe still does. And then another was thin content. So a lot of websites would produce kind of like low quality content en masse to rank for particular keywords, and it used to be, so you may have on a website potentially 5 thin content pages that could all be sort of merged in and created as one page, and that was again another tactic. So you would have each page would answer a particular query, answer a particular question, and again it may have been useful for people to get those answers quickly, but it doesn't really provide that kind of quality content that people want and what they go onto search engines for. So that's what SEO used to be, but now in 2024 it's quite a bit different. Search engines are always evolving, they are always updating their algorithms and getting smarter. A search engine, I always like to think of it as in they are providing a service to their customers. Their customers are searchers, and they want to give those customers the best possible product. That product is our website, our content, and our information as website owners, managers, business owners. And it's up to us to really kind of create a product that Google wants to give to that searcher. And that now is, there's a lot now that Google and other search engines want and expect from websites. And there's an awful lot that we need to sort of consider from an SEO perspective. User experience is a huge one. I've always thought that SEO is, it's all about the experience of that searcher from when they type into the search bar to when they convert, hopefully, on your website. It's all about providing the best experience for them, making sure that the information you're giving them is correct, is useful, aligns with what they want. And importantly on that, working alongside user experience designers and conversion rate optimization teams is just so important in continuing that, particularly now and how the search landscape is evolving. No longer do we do thin content. Actually, thin content now is known to harm your website. Content all needs to be obviously high quality, informative and engaging. We also now have kind of a rise in voice search as well. So 27% of searches are conducted by voice. So if you're kind of within sort of an industry where that is, people are likely to search by voice, making sure that your content is optimized for that kind of conversational query is so important as well. And aligning with that experience, we used to always use something called EAT, which is expertise, authority and trust. Now it's EEAT, so experience, expertise, authority and trust, which just basically means, that more emphasis is being placed on the credibility and trustworthiness of website content by search engines. We also need to consider things like local SEO, people searching for something near me, washing machine fixers in my location. Obviously, particularly for local audiences, that is so key. And then, of course, technical SEO is always going to be important. It really links in with that kind of experience side of things. It also, I think, technical SEO is where you really... you're really helping the kind of the search engine out. If your website is technically unsound, has errors, a search engine kind of crawler will not be able to get to all of your content, and that's what you want it to do. You want them to get to all of your content, understand what it means, and then add it into the index that they have. So just to sum up, really, search engine optimization is now really search experience optimization. We need to think of, when we're optimizing for websites, we need to think about that kind of very holistic view. What is the searcher? What's the headspace at this moment in time? What do they want? And how can you be the best website to give them that information, really? Okay, so why am I giving you an SEO history lesson? Quite frankly, because what used to work may not work for your website anymore. If you haven't had anyone look at your SEO for a number of years, it might be that your website traffic is going to start dropping, because even if you're not looking at your kind of, how you're performing in search engines, I can completely tell you that your competitors will be. So if you do find yourself in the position where you haven't kind of, I suppose, been keeping an eye on your kind of how your website looks to search engines, and you are finding yourself in a traffic drop, whether or not it is an immediate one, or if it's kind of been a longer term slowly decreasing traffic, week on week or month on month, I'm just going to give a few really top line things to look at to kind of troubleshoot what might be causing that traffic drop, and how to kind of help with that. So the first thing to note is, obviously, as users, I'm going to make the assumption that everyone who is watching this uses search engines from some at one point or another. We all search holistically if we think about kind of how we search, so we need to kind of optimize holistically. So everything that I'm kind of mentioning here is is kind of a bit more of a holistic look at kind of optimizations. I'm not getting too specific or down into the details, just giving you some ideas of what things to look at. So the first thing is, I've kind of alluded to this, but do you have a dedicated SEO resource? If not, and you haven't had anyone look at your SEO for a long time, to have a look at how your website is kind of, is matching up with that, the kind of the experience, expertise, authority and trust that I've just mentioned, looking at your technical performance, looking at, who's linking into your website, is that relevant? If you haven't had anyone do that for a long time, now is a great time to bring someone on board to have a look. As well, if you have ever had someone kind of do SEO and do optimizations as a kind of a one-off project a couple of years ago, that may not be working for you anymore. If you've got that kind of dedicated SEO professional, they'll make those ongoing optimizations to your website. They will keep up to date with what is going on in the kind of search engine world. They'll keep an eye on algorithm updates. They'll look at, they'll be educating themselves on what other people are doing. They'll be monitoring your kind of rankings and your traffic. And it's just really important to note that SEO itself isn't a kind of a one-time project. It's not necessarily a channel, and having someone kind of look at the parts of your website that will impact your rankings and visibility across search engines is really, really key. If you do have that dedicated SEO resource in there, whatever that may look like, whether it's someone in-house, whether it's an agency, a freelancer, a consultant, if you do have them and you're still seeing this kind of traffic drop, firstly, do they have enough time? Are they, have they only got a couple of hours every month? Are they only managing to look at a few of your web pages because of the time that they've got? Really, again, it's a good idea to look at, again, everything holistically. So looking at your entire website rather than just kind of a subsection or a few pages. And then if they do have enough time, are their recommendations actually being implemented, or are they just being sat in a backlog? And this is something that many websites face, where there's just not enough time in the day to be making these additional changes on top of regular kind of website management. But if you do have that person and you are paying for their expertise and for them to give you recommendations, it's so important to make sure that there is also someone to implement them. Otherwise, you know, the dial's never going to change. And then another one, has there been an algorithm update? Again, if you have that dedicated SEO resource, they will keep an eye on algorithm updates. They will be able to let you know what's been happening, and ideally as well, having someone who is looking at your website through an SEO lens and making sure that everything is, you know, is high quality, is relevant, is trustworthy, you know, is not spammy. Having them kind of keeping an eye on that will kind of help you avoid any kind of algorithm, you know, mishaps. So I know I've kind of touched on algorithms before from a search engine perspective. So search engines, and Google in particular, make thousands of tweaks to their algorithm per year, the majority of which will go largely undetected. Those tweaks are all, like I said earlier, they are to make sure that they are giving their users, searchers, the best product possible and sending them to the best website. So any kind of small tweaks, if they think that this is probably very granular, but how I think of it is, if they think that a query or a query within an industry, for example, is best answered by a video, then they may start prioritising video content on the search engine results page. So in that case, if that's something you notice, all of your competitors, they're outranking you and they all have videos on their page, then it's time for you to be making a video of that content and putting it on the page to align with kind of what they're looking for. So yeah, Google also makes several larger updates during the year. It used to be the case that we would know what they were. They'd be called names like there's penguin, panda, pigeon, and they would all be focused on one blanket thing. So whether or not it was on spam or on content quality. Now we don't always know when these kind of larger algorithm updates are coming, but there is they do have a kind of like a dashboard where they list all of their kind of core updates that they've done throughout the years. And I think it's also really a really good point to point out that just because your website has been kind of negatively impacted by an algorithm update, it's not always a negative reflection of your website itself. It might just be that other websites are, you know, like say, being ranked more highly, like I mentioned the example before. If now the priority is video content for that term or that kind of topic, it might just be that, you know, it's because they've decided that video is the best way of answering that query, and that's nothing on your website, on your content, that's just what they believe, the algorithm now believes is the best answer as well. And then the third potential to look at if you're experiencing a traffic drop is, have you recently made any large website changes? So that could be a full kind of migration. So if you've moved from one domain to another, if you have moved, even to an extent, if you've moved hosts, actually, potentially if that's, you know, if that's not done sort of not correctly, but if that's impacted any kind of URL changes, that could impact that. If your website has gone, if you have done that and your website's gone from a fast server to a slower one, who knows, that could be what's impacted. As well, if you've rebuilt part of your website or done a kind of a design change, that can also, you know, impact your traffic drops and impact your kind of visibility on search engines as well. So as I just mentioned, any change to URL structures will impact your visibility on organic search results. That's kind of just search engines know where your content lives. If you change the URL, it's almost like changing your address. So if you do not put in the correct redirections in place, search engines just don't know where your content's gone, and they will just go, okay, well, that's gone, we'll just put another web page here instead that I can find. And then again, migrations and website rebuilds, they can cause temporary or sometimes permanent drops in traffic. And then again, onto the design changes. So this might not be something that you think would impact your sort of organic search rankings or visibility, but it potentially can do. So say, for example, if you add larger images, or if you're adding kind of video content or any kind of dynamic content to the website, which may not be it may not be kind of sitting from like an SEO perspective, it might be purely from a creative or from a visual perspective, that can cause a drop in the traffic as well, potentially, if it's not managed appropriately, and also even a change in page layout as well. This is why it's so important, like I keep mentioning this, but that SEO is looked at holistically, that any changes on your website have kind of, there's someone from the SEO team looking at what's going on, and just so that things like this can be mitigated as well. And then the final one is a bit of a trickier one to quantify, but have your target audience began going elsewhere for their information? Have they started turning to social media, for example? So this is something that's really interesting, is how we search now is not, we don't just go to Google, we don't just go to Bing, we don't just go to traditional search engines. I think particularly as we are in a more kind of digitally native environment, that we innately kind of know where to go to find certain things. We know where we want to go when we want to find out the height of a celebrity. We go straight over to a traditional search engine. But when we want to know things to do in a place that we're visiting on holiday, people are more starting to shift over to things like TikTok and to YouTube, because they want to watch a video, they want to see what's happening, they want to see everyone else's experience rather than just reading about it on a web page. So that in itself, for some websites more than others, and some content types more than others, it might be that your audience are just going somewhere else. And I think if that is the case, maybe that's the time to start expanding your content to those other platforms. It's the time to move your written content into videos, adding that onto YouTube. It's time to start asking your community to create user-generated content on TikTok, or on Instagram as well. Because it's not just search engine optimization these days. It's not just all about Google and Bing. It's so much wider than that. And then onto a few key takeaways. So firstly, search engines are ever evolving, and so are we as searchers. What used to work for your website may not be as effective anymore. That doesn't necessarily mean that what you've done is negative. It just means that it just may not be working for your users and for your potential customer base anymore. SEO is not a one-time project, it's a long-term investment. It's also worth saying, it's not a set channel. SEO should look kind of over a wide array of channels. As users and as searchers, we're becoming much more savvy with where we go to make our searches, and that's not always a traditional search engine. And it's really important to have someone with knowledge and experience looking after your SEO, advising your content team, advising your development team of what updates and optimizations to make, to align to what both your customers, potential purchasers, and also to what search engines want and are looking for. So thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. If you would like to hear about our future masterclasses, feel free to sign up to our newsletter by scanning the QR code here. I will leave it here for a minute, or you can go to the bottom of our website. These are some of the sources that I used for the webinar, and thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. If my email is there, if you want to get in touch regarding anything that I've mentioned, please just pop me an email, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Bye.